The saying is, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But when you have a fan fest, you kind of want to talk about it. So what happened in Vegas, we're going to tell you all about it here on the Carbuncle Chronicle. Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Carbuncle Chronicle, your podcast for everything awesome in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm Basil, and I portray a Lalafell summoner on Leviathan named 4K Rydiske.
I'm Anna. I play a Lalafell dancer named Cormia Rydiske.
And I'm Tobias. I am Nanawai Silvestri, a Lalafellan paladin.
And that is us. So the three of us got to go to Vegas. I say got to. I mean, we lucked out. We were able to purchase tickets thanks to the goodness of other people's hearts. So we have the chance to spend lots and lots of money that we may or may not had.
Yeah, it really sucks when you get laid off from your job 2 months before you leave for a big trip.
You know, I didn't really spend as much money as I was expecting, simply because the merchandise situation was, well, I'm sure we'll cover that in a second.
Right.
Yeah. That said, right this moment, as of recording, you can technically buy most of it and have it delivered to your home because they actually restocked a whole lot of it for the European London FanFest, but you can still order it in America. So if you want stuff, and more stuff on top of it. So if you want something from FanFest, you can buy a lot of it again. So there is that. You have
until September 4th to pre-order.
Yeah, I actually went ahead and bought my US shirt like the week after I got back. So
nice.
Excellent. All right. So before we get into FanFest proper, we should reiterate the Moonfire Fair. It's still going for this week as you're listening. Hey folks, Basil here with an addendum. So, the Moonfire Fair is over. So hopefully you got your cool Sentai suits. If not, well, there's next year on the Mock Station. Haha. But what is going on right this moment as we're releasing this episode is both the Moogle Tomestones, which has lots of good stuff, and also the Rising. The Rising also, instead of only going for a week like it normally does, is going, along with the Moogle Tomestones, is going to the beginning of patch 6.5, which will be early October. So, we were wrong on that one too, but in a good way. Anyways, thanks and back to the show. But as soon as Moonfire Fair ends, the very next day, the Rising seasonal event begins. It's the one where they go, hey man, thanks for playing our MMO. We really appreciate it. Like they put you in front of a model Yoshi Peonies, like, thanks y'all for playing my video game. It's real nice of you to spend money on me.
This is a special year too, right? This is the 10th anniversary.
Yeah, the 10th anniversary of 2.0.
You know, I saw someone on Twitter, and I hadn't thought about what the reward could be this year. And when I saw it on Twitter, I was like, that would be perfect. A wandering minstrel minion.
Oh, that would be. That'd be very good.
Man, I want that.
I guess.
I know, right?
So now we've only set us all up for disappointment.
I don't think a Rising event will ever beat the year we got to go into the dev room and talk to everybody. That was such a fun event. I wish they would find a way so we could sort of do those in like New Game Plus or Never Ending Story or whatever, so we could see those cutscenes again.
See live as Yoshi P accidentally confirms Red Mage before he was supposed to because they actually hadn't decided yet.
Maybe that's the reason why they don't have them available. We're trying to erase all evidence.
It's true. But also, they are doing currently a free login campaign for up to 14 free days. So if you're not currently subbed and you're listening to us, I don't know why, but thanks for listening to us. From Wednesday, August 9th, which has already happened, until the 31st, you can go to the free login website and do the steps and get free days of playtime. So you should go do that if you're not currently signed up, and go do the Moonfire Fair and the Rising. It's a great time to resub for a little bit. Kevin.
Well, apparently there have been a number of people letting their subs lapse just because we're in the middle of patches, so yeah, perfect time for someone in that situation like Kevin to come back just to do the few events right before 6.5 drops.
Yep, well, and 6.5 part 1, because this is the big thing leading up to the 7.0 Dawntrail expansion, so they always split up into 2 parts because there's so much story they want to cover, especially in this case, but we'll get to that later. I should also say that spoiler-wise, this is going to be, except for maybe when we talk about the live letter, this overall is going to be a decently spoiler-free episode, I feel like, because except for, we might use some names, but out of context what those names are, you're going to have no idea what we're talking about. So this should be pretty abbyable, as I think is the term I'm going to use now, is abbyable.
Abbyable. I think we talked a lot about 7.0 last time, so if we just kind of quickly go over the keynote, yeah, this should be pretty spoiler-free.
So without further ado, we'll have a musical intro that takes us into us talking about FanFest 2003 in Las Vegas. So we all hopped on airplanes and flew to Vegas. And that's when it began our journeys to try and connect. And that was already stumbling over ourselves because, boy, the Las Vegas airport sure is big.
True.
Yeah, I want to say we got off on the same terminal, but I went ahead and started walking toward the entrance in one direction. And then when you guys landed, you started walking toward the other entrance in the other direction, unbeknownst to me.
I believe your luggage went to a different carousel than ours did.
Right. And boy, Vegas was hot. Like as soon as we got there, you could just feel the wave of heat.
Yeah.
It was fun. We ended up meeting a nice group of 14 players that were on our flight. We met up with them in the Huntsville airport. Never met them before. Didn't know they existed before. And we all had a really good time, chilling out before our flight and just talking with each other and getting to know each other and being really excited that we have a nice little group of 14 people in Huntsville, completely besides all the people that we know that play this game here. And we actually got to sort of connect with them through the flight, and then once we got to get our luggage and everything, and it was really fun. It was neat having sort of a set group of people that we already knew and could say hi to around the FanFest.
Yeah, when I pulled into Charlotte, the terminal I was in was pretty full of people, even when I got there an hour before that connecting took off. And there were several nerds there, several people I could tell were there for FanFest. But since we were all kind of spread out, I was a little too embarrassed to actually approach anybody and, strike up a conversation. But it was still cool to see, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 people that were apparently FanFest goers.
Apparently, this is the only time I'll ever be an extrovert, because we were standing in line to check in to our plane the second we get into the airport, and they were like, oh, they're not here yet. They'll be here in 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay, great. So we're standing in line, and I turn and I see someone stand up, and they have the backpack from the 2018 FanFest. And I was like, 14 people. And the second they came over, I started talking to them. And then we found more people with 14 things that joined the group. And so, yeah, it's the only time I will ever be an extrovert is when it comes to talking to 14 people.
Yeah, it was one of those things where, because we were all early, so early that the folks, was it Breeze that we took?
Yes, Breeze Airway.
Yeah, we got there before the people who actually check people in get there, because we were following the appropriate 2 hours before your flight. Which, it's Huntsville, you don't really need to do it, but we do it anyways just to be safe.
Yeah.
And apparently everyone else who was going to FanFest had the same idea, so we actually all kind of grouped up in the same spot all together, because we all were using Breeze because it was cheaper than anything else to get to Vegas. So that was really fun. We all connected. We all exchanged like Discords right before the flight took off, because we're like, wait, we should actually like talk to each other after this or during this. And so it's really, really fun to connect with new friends, but all the same game, which is kind of the whole point of FanFest, honestly. Like, for example, was it Thursday night? The group was, I believe they're called the Dangerous Ladies.
Yes.
They did a get together. They rented out a ballroom and an amount of drinks that people could do an open bar for like a very short span of time, because a lot of people showed up, and just for people to get together and meet before the FanFest started. I thought that was really cool of them. They even offered, if you sent them screenshots of your character, they would make little name badges for everybody who did that. And they printed them out, laminated them, and it had little, cheap, free lanyards for everyone. It was a really, really nice thing they did.
They even had like some water bottles that they had been giving out. Unfortunately, we missed those because we were a little late, because my body decided it didn't like the heat all of a sudden and gave me a miniature heat stroke.
The Vegas heat.
Yeah. And then I had no problems the rest of the weekend. It was just that moment was, and I never felt like I was too hot. It was completely unexpected. But the get together was great. We actually ran into people we met at the Final Fantasy XIV panel and photo shoot at MomoCon. They actually recognized us, and we recognized them, and we got to talk to them for a little bit. So it was a lot of fun. We
also got to, and this could be a recurring theme throughout this entire weekend, because when we mentioned how the 14 has one of the best communities ever, it's not hyperbole. It really is true. And one of the things that ended up becoming a big theme was the concept of sticker trading. Someone on Twitter was like, hey, we should all exchange stickers, and started up with like a sign-up sheet that you could sign up for. And what ended up happening was that a lot of folks just all made stickers.
Well, the previous FanFest, the same person, I believe, did the same thing, and we traded keychains that time. And I can't art. I actually ended up making Shrinky Dink keychains of my character using a screenshot. But so many people thought it was cute. I actually recently found my bag full of Warrior of Light keychains from so many people from that FanFest, and it was such a huge hit. And I know a lot of people were sad they didn't get to participate in it. So I think the stickers were a great idea, and I believe it is now a thing. If you're going to a convention and that has any kind of 14 presence at all, people are going to be bringing stickers to trade. I believe that is going to be a staple of convention going and FanFest going forward, because it's a great way to be like, to just go up to people that you share the same interest, and everyone loves seeing each other's Warrior of Lights, and the stickers are such a good idea.
Yeah. And
we're like I said, we can't draw, so Basil is a great graphic designer, so we took screenshots in his photo studio apartment, and he took those screenshots and made such a cute sticker, and we got those done, and everyone thought they were just adorable, and so I was really excited about that.
Even the ones that we ordered that ended up being much smaller than we expected, because we're Lalafels, and everyone's like, oh, they're really small, and your Lalafels, this is perfect. And we're like, oh, thank God, people actually like these super tiny stickers we thought we were ordering bigger ones of. So yeah, we were handing out stickers, we were handing out Carbuncle Chronicle business cards. So perhaps you're listening to this episode because you got our sticker and business card. And if so, thank you all for listening. Please keep listening.
I mean, if we got any listeners from people at FanFest, go ahead and give us a shout out in the comments, whether on YouTube or whatever platform you're using to listen to this. It'd be really cool to hear who all is coming here from FanFest.
Yeah, maybe even I don't.
I'm still waiting for the people that were in line with us at the orchestra concert to be like, I know them.
Yeah, it was really, really fun, and then Friday rolled around and the line began.
Well, the line actually began Thursday at registration.
That's true. That's true.
Which
But that line went super quick.
It did. It was very long, but very efficient.
Mhm.
I was pleasantly surprised with how quickly it went. And even then, we started talking to people. We may have even traded stickers in line. I don't remember. We found out the staff shirts were one of the same shirts that I brought.
Yes, they were
Loprit.
designed the Loprit from the tribe quests.
I was
All
a
the
little
yellow shirts were
concerned I would get in trouble, but so many people had the same idea and had dressed in that for the weekend, so that was fun. And we got our goodie bags, which were amazing. Sadly, none of us were a recipient of the golden ticket.
But we know of several people who were, so apparently they were giving plenty of those out.
Oh, yeah. And I think it was a good idea. I do think that it was a fair way to do it.
Mhm.
And I'm excited for people that got them. And people got to see many of the devs and the celebrities essentially of FanFest walking around and getting pictures with them like they've normally done in the past too. So I think that was I think it was a good plan.
It was. I do think that now is as good a time as any. So one of the downsides of this particular FanFest, which I'm sure will probably be fixed in future FanFests, but especially post-COVID, it's been really hard for conventions just in general to accumulate the staff needed to actually run events. And boy, did this event feel like that was an issue that they were dealing with.
Yeah, going from MomoCon, which is a 48,000 person event, to FanFest, which is a 15,000 person event. I really Jess, the runner of MomoCon, they know how to do lines. And she's made sure all her staff know how to run lines. And that is something that maybe the Square Enix team or even I know the Las Vegas Convention Center staff was not helping at all with this.
Mhm.
The line management was non-existent, essentially. Like they tried in certain points, like the snaking systems were fine, especially with the little events once we get into FanFest proper. And I felt like the merch lines and the battle challenge lines were set up well, but they were just not managed well. I was surprised, especially with the merch, because again, previous FanFest in person, they did the pre-order system like they did this time, and it went incredibly smooth. People were able to go pick up their pre-ordered items at FanFest, which I think having them sent, I know the timing was a little off for some people. Some people got it before they left. Some people didn't get it till they got home. But the pre-order system was such a good idea, and it was supposed to really diminish merch line. And I was really surprised at how horrible it was, even with that, because it had worked so well the previous in-person FanFest. I was really surprised with how bad it was this time.
It really felt like there was they needed at least 2 or 3 times the amount of staff they had hired to help manage this event, because FanFest, it's a production put on by Square Enix. Like, this is marketing money besides the money we actually spent to buy tickets to this thing being spent. So everyone working there is getting paid. And the actual community team is not huge. Like, there's 5 senior members of that community team, and they're off busy running like actual things, during FanFest. They're not the boots on the ground. They hire folks for that. They hire professionals, but due to COVID, a lot of those companies disappeared or let go large swath of people. I know that, for example, ReedPop, who, shuttered US Gamer a few years back, partially because all the major source of income were things like PAXs and the events that they run.
Mhm.
And they're only now starting to hire people back. So there is a decent chance that Square Enix hired as much as they could get a hold of at the time. I think I even heard that they even hired the team that ran it like much later than you would normally hire, because the people they were originally hired did not work out.
Mhm.
I don't know what's going on, but I can safely say that the amount of people that they did hire was not enough people to manage the amount of people that were there at FanFest. Also, there were a lot of folks, this was their first FanFest. And so I kind of wonder, maybe between FanFests, the first one we went to, which was FanFest number 2 and FanFest number 3, there were a lot of repeats. And so they knew, oh, we should definitely pre-order, because that 2016 FanFest, the lines were terrible. So pre-ordering is a good idea. And so 18 was, I'm sure there was new folks, a lot of folks that came from the 2016 one, new to pre-order, and so that helped that a lot. Whereas this FanFest, there was this whole global pandemic in between, where the original 2020 FanFest that would have existed did not exist. It was an online only, FanFest. And so there's also that, where I'm sure like a lot of folks that would have been running it, and also a lot of folks at Square planning for it, there's been, 5-6 years since the last FanFest. So there were a lot of lessons that were getting relearned that I thought we had learned, but we clearly forgot.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say this being my first show, but I do agree that it seems like there were some issues behind the scenes in the lead up, because even before we left, there was the guidelines about the water bottles and the bags you could bring in, and there was a big pushback against
Which all of that got thrown out the window.
Exactly. And so like we get there, and the first line is the security line. Now, I've only done security line at one other show. That was back in 2013 for Penny Arcade Expo in Boston. That was the 6 months after the Boston Marathon bombing. If you guys remember that. So yes, they definitely had security there, and they were checking everybody's bags. So I was expecting to go in with them doing the same thing. Bags open, they check it, and they really didn't do it this time. I got the impression, for whatever reason behind the scenes, that they kind of gave up on that. They wanted to have a little bit of security theater to make sure no one is bringing a weapon in. But, the thing about the water, all the water stations were outside of the checkpoint. So, you had to go out to fill up your water bottle, which they had completely changed the rules on, the policy on, like 3 days before the show anyway. So, yeah.
And then even when we got in line, you were dumping your water, and someone behind us was like, yeah, they told us we could keep it. So it was very...
And then later on, we talked to some other folks who had to dump their water, and that was after we had already gotten through with that guy who was able to keep his water.
Yeah.
It just depended on who you talk to.
So yeah, like when you compare it to like MomoCon, that it's easy to make the connection because this is all nerd stuff. But you have to remember, I think for the people out there, have to remember this is still a small, quote unquote, small show compared to the nerd conventions that we do that are fan run, that are volunteer run. It is Square Enix, a company that does video games, putting on this show. And yeah, this is like what their fourth in-person fan fest, I think, total, right? Third or fourth?
For North America, it would be 12, or it would be the 9th?
It'd be the fourth in-person fan fest as far as in America.
Okay, in Las Vegas, yes. I'm thinking total though, because there's 3 for each.
Yeah, but I guess even just for Las Vegas specific, I'm sure the attitude, the atmosphere is very different between Tokyo and Las Vegas. So
right,
yeah, they obviously had to hire the Las Vegas Civic Center staff, because they were obviously I don't know who were wearing the opera shirts, who they worked for specifically, but the
I believe
people
they
in
were all Square Enix.
okay, but the people in suits doing the security line, they were wearing LBCC outfits, and there were a few people. So,
Right.
there's been a lot of complaints about it. I went in expecting. I don't generally do big events at these anime cons I go to. I don't really do voice actors in particular, so I don't myself line up for that kind of stuff. But I've heard horror stories of people like Anime Expo and Otakon lining up in the morning just to get signatures or chances to get signatures from people like Junji Ito or other Japanese guests. So
Right.
my thinking on that is don't do that stuff. I didn't line up for merch because I'm not really a merch kind of guy. All I really wanted was a t-shirt. I figured I would go get it like I did after the fact. I was not going to line up in that huge queue in line just to get a t-shirt. We did the battle challenge. We initially decided not to do the battle challenge because we heard there were like a 3-hour delay outside of the appointment. So like for me personally, I was expecting to wing it and just kind of ignore a lot of that stuff. But I know that a lot of people had their heart set on doing it. And because of the issues that happened that weekend, really soured a lot of people on FanFest because of those expectations.
Right. And speaking of the battle challenge, that was one new thing to FanFest this year, the app. They've never had an app before, and it was very instrumental in what you wanted to do there.
Yeah. The app was a great idea by itself, but I don't know if you guys had as many as I did, but there were a lot of location settings issues. I had to restart the app and sort of back in and out just to get it to understand that I was at the convention center to register
Yeah,
me.
I never had the issues with the location. I actually got it pretty simply because you had to have the location available and set so you could access anything in the app. Or I mean, minus the schedule. And it was a good idea. Especially for the battle challenge type setup. However, the battle challenge, like you had to but you had to essentially get in an online queue. You had the running man, which scarred everybody from tickets before. You had to get in the queue and wait. And then once you got through, you could pick your day and time to go to the battle challenge. And that's fine. That was great. However, it was very, not clunky, but it was very awkward. Because once I got through the queue, I was very quick to get into it. I was still like 600 or 700 behind once I got in. And once I got through the queue, it sent me to a website that put me in queue again. And that was very frustrating.
Which was clearly same queue that we just went through.
Exactly. And so, but then Tobias, I believe, figured it out, and because he finally got in, you had to back out of the whole thing. Like it was very frustrating, very stressful because you were afraid you were going to lose your spot. But you had to back out of the entire thing, go back into it, go through the process, and then it was like, oh wait, yeah, you're already in queue. Great, now you can pick your time. Okay, right. But then once you did that, you had to back out again all the way, go back into the app, and then it was like, okay, here's your code. Just show it, when you go. And it's like, okay. And I did get the email eventually that said, hey, you've made your battle challenge reservation. So it was, and I had a lot of people around us because this was all happening. It went live 30 minutes before the keynote. So it was telling people how long they were going to be in line, and it was going to be into the keynote, and people were freaking out about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I had people next to me when I was saying, oh, I got it. They were like, what did you do? And I said, you have to back out completely. And they looked at me like, you're insane. I was like, I promise. Trust me. And it was slow loading because everybody was doing it. And it was just very frustrating. I know Basil was like, I'm going to get through this queue as soon as the trailer for the keynote starts. And he was going to be so upset because he was like going to be trying to do that and watch the trailer.
Oh, yeah.
And it was it eventually worked out. All three of us got in well before the keynote started, and it was fine. But yeah, like you said, we were then starting to hear, especially when it came to be our time, they were still 3 hours behind schedule.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why did we do, you know?
Well, and apparently we found out later on that a lot of folks just got in line to the battle challenge and they never bothered to queue up in the app. They just got in line. Because apparently at some point they're like, only people who've actually got times will get through this line. If you do not have a time, please leave the line. And apparently like half the line emptied out. So there was that. I also wonder, due to the weirdness of the app of backing up and backing in, leaving out and going back in, I wonder if a lot of people accidentally like skip the line and just register times. So way more people register times before they were supposed to register times.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Now it's possible. I don't know, but I think again, it's one of those things where I could totally see this issue being much better implemented in later fan fests.
Exactly. It's really tough for us to say, not seeing the back end. I can theorize what I think the computers were talking about to each other when all that glitching happened. I don't really want to say for sure, but ultimately it caused a bubble in the line.
Yeah. And the other thing that the app was good for is this was something, again, that they did our very first FanFest. They had sort of like Hildebrand quests, and it was Hildebrand themed. But you had quests you could do, and they had little mini games that you could go participate in. And once you finished it, the person working the booth would stamp your book, and then once you finished, you got a little prize. And they did that this time, and it was through the app, and it was great. I felt like that was such a clever thing to do. We had quests, we had sightseeing locations, we had different things you could go do, and they had QR codes. Some of them you would just go up to and scan, and that would be like your sightseeing log or something. And then for others, you would get in line and participate in the activities, and then the person running the booth would give you a QR code to scan to get that badge. Well, and that was great. And honestly, I'm sad I didn't get to do all of them because they were fun. They also had the Gleaners, which would give you a quest. It was really like listening to an NPC doing a side quest in game, and they were so into it. They were so much fun to listen to. And they would give you like a clue or something, and you had to figure it out. And people were talking about it all weekend. Like I could see people going, "Okay, what does this mean?" And it was great. My sad issue, I guess, and I made sure to do this before we left. Once you left the location, you can't see your badges anymore. And that is one thing I thought about before we left, and I was able to screenshot the ones I had collected before we left. But I guarantee you there are people who got like all of them that can't go back and see them now. And I wish there was something that you could do. That was a little sad about it with the location.
Yeah.
But again, it's, you're going to live and learn. I have made an app before. I know how frustrating it is. So I can understand like the feedback they're going to get on this, and it's going to be better in the future. But that is one thing I felt sad, is that I can't go back and see my badges if I hadn't screenshotted them.
Yeah, the QR codes, I think the way they did it was a little strange. They had QR codes on the signs for the mini games that didn't actually count toward the progress of getting the special gift. You actually had to go and participate for the most part in those mini games, which the line, of course, is its own thing. But I feel like you mentioned the Gleaners. I think that was a really interesting way or reason to take pictures of the event, because you had to basically take a picture of you doing the thing the Gleaner told you to do. So that was kind of your souvenir. So for instance, they had a big inflated moon right above Mare Lamentorum. And one of the Gleaner quests was you had to take a picture of looking like you holding up the moon, from a perspective.
Yeah,
So
we saw people doing that, like, it was from the get-go, and we're like, "What?" I was like, "That's cute, they're taking pictures, that's cute," and then I
Yeah.
found out later it was for the quest, I went, "Oh, okay."
And, like, there's that, and there's the mural they had on the wall of Elpis, and like I just took a picture of it because it was a cool as hell, you know. I didn't even think about the
Yeah.
Oh,
Gleaner
I didn't
quest.
realize it was a quest.
Yeah,
We
that
just
was
took a
one of the
picture
Gleaner
with it.
quests.
Oh, well, crap.
Yeah,
Could've
so
gotten that
like,
badge.
so like, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of sad that you can't access it. They were little pictures, like Proto Carbuncle was just a Proto Carbuncle face, or whatever. But you know, at least they encourage you to take pictures. Really, that's the thing that I treasure the most is
Right.
the pictures, the memories I'll have from that.
And
But
speaking of the locations, they've done elaborate, like, little scenes before, like, we've had Kugane before and
mhm,
things like that, and like the Aetherite at the 2018. These were so beautiful and so well done. Because we had Pandemonium, we had Mario Lamentorum, we had a couple of Charlene, we had one with the fountain, we had one with the books, and then
yeah,
Razat Han. The sitting area of Razat Han was so cool, and we hung out there for a while. Like they
mhm.
were, and
Island
then Island
Sanctuary.
Sanctuary, yeah. The
Oh
little
yeah.
mini games, I watched people playing them. They were so clever. Those were like such a highlight, I think.
Now the production levels of all the things that you could do as these optional activities while you're at FanFest. I remember in 2016 where it felt like it was just slightly souped up carnival games that they had rented and just plastered like 14 stuff over. No, these are like actual like production, like quality, like things to go look at and see and do. And it was so much more impressive and such a higher level. I remember seeing things at like the Japanese FanFest pictures of that one. Like, man, why couldn't we get stuff as cool as that they were getting? This year, they were as cool as the stuff that they had got in like the Japanese FanFest or the Europe FanFest, where they usually get little upgrades than what we get. Like usually the US FanFest feels like a testing ground for them to really knock people's socks off in the European and the Japanese FanFest. But this time it really felt like, oh no, we get the good shit this time too. Now, I think something I really wish they could have done was make them even bigger. Now they could have with the size that they were able to book. But the only downside was that there was, again, just so many people at this FanFest that you kind of had to pick one activity to queue up for, and hopefully you got through it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly,
Like,
the second day was quite better and more. You could do more the second day. I feel like the
Yeah.
first day everybody was like panicking to do things,
Mm-hmm.
and the
Yes.
lines were just absolutely terrible. But the second day, we got through a couple of them pretty quickly. We even got food on the second day.
Yeah.
So
We actually did the battle challenge second day. We straight
we
up
did the
showed up.
battle challenge. We did the Pandemonium stuff.
But yeah, to echo Basil's point, like some of the sets maybe looked a little, you could see the seams, but like I'm just amazed that they have like the statue of Thaliak from Charlan.
That was
Yeah.
so pretty.
Like the Mario Lamentorum with all the strobe lights that the Hopers hold, like the dance floor and everything. And what blows me away is that when we do FanFest digging in 2 years, when they have Dawntrail out, they're not really going to reuse any of those sets. So what are they going to do with it? They're going to take it to London. They're going to take it to Tokyo. But man, it's kind of a shame that Thaliak's, God knows what's going to happen to it. I hope somebody, like, I hope it gets on display at the Square Enix office or something. It doesn't get scrapped.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's like the fat chocobo they used to take to PAX and they took to FanFest that you got to take pictures on. I wonder where it ended up, because it's going to end up probably wherever Ifrit from 16's going to end up.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if maybe some of this stuff will show up at a PAX.
That's true. Well, Square, if you need somebody to take that Thaliak off your hands, you know where to find us. Carbuncle.com.
Although, speaking of the battle challenge, it was Ashura from Final Fantasy IV.
Yep.
And it was fun. It was a neat little fight. We think maybe it's Hildebrand. That's our theory currently of where it might show up in the actual game at some point. But it was a fun thing. We really we got into with a group. They also was probably smart in that previous FanFests, there was multiple different things you could do that involved the game, but this time it was just it was just a battle challenge. Every computer was just for the battle challenge because they knew people were going to want to go through the battle challenge. Also, this is just a PSA to anyone who goes to FanFest or plans to go to FanFest. Know the battle challenge at FanFest will not get you a t-shirt. That is a PAX thing, not a FanFest thing.
Now, I was corrected on Facebook. They did do shirts the very first year for Odin, but it was also the very first FanFest. It was very much smaller than what it is now. They have not done shirts since that FanFest.
Look, they already got our money. They already know we're there for 14. They know they can squeeze us for everything we've got. At PAX, those t-shirts are to entice you to come try 14. And maybe you might scope out that free trial that will, come October, include even the Stormblood expansion up to level 70.
You know, with the battle challenge, I was just, because we showed up the day after, I was a little flustered trying to make sure my hotbars were set up. I don't really remember too much about the sheriff fight. Like, I was desperate to pay attention to the AoEs to make sure I didn't do something stupid. And that was it. Like, there were a bunch of AoEs. That's all I really remember. If there's a sort of a gimmick mechanic, I don't remember it.
I would like to learn how to play on controller just for when I go to FanFest, if I get to go again, because I feel like that would be a lot less. Like I said, I don't remember the fight very well because the whole time I'm looking at my hotbars trying to click the right buttons.
I remember there was a set of mechanics that she telegraphed and saved, then executed, and so you had to remember the order of what AoEs were doing what, because that's when I died.
I did look over and see like, oh, Basil.
Like, I was trying to do the mechanics as they were happening, not realizing, oh wait, no, she's saving those to then launch them in a moment. And so I was already trying to do stuff, so I wasn't entirely in the wrong spot when they were actually going off.
Yeah.
So I remember that part.
That's what I popped my cooldowns. I think I barely made it through that unscathed.
But yeah, that was the things that we did at the con. I will say they did improve the food line. Day one, it was just like this one massive, huge line for everything that had no rhyme or reason. And they at least made sure to put lines at the actual places to try and clump people up where the places you actually wanted to get food from. So again, second day, they were already making improvements, even though, again, there were just so many people. It was just, it felt like, I'm sure they felt completely snowed in every moment. They were probably not getting paid enough to deal with us.
I will say one of the biggest negatives of FanFest that I've heard most, other than COVID, the ADA, to the treatment of people that were ADA, was absolutely terrible. I feel like part of it's on Square Enix, part of it was on the Vegas staff. They have to do better. That absolutely has to be addressed and done better.
Yeah, unfortunately, when the cracks started happening and the crowd started going a little crazier, especially on the second day, that was just unfortunately the first thing to go. Is they set up the mosh pit and had to knock all those seats out of the front. So that's the 88 section pretty much gone. And then just to see the amount of people that were packed in together, because I briefly considered standing up in the mosh pit because I wanted to be part of the experience. And people were like, no, sit down. We got good seats. Don't worry about it. I'm like, well, let me go just look. And even I was uncomfortable as a able-bodied, adult. I was like, this is way too many people, man. Like, if a stampede had happened, or if God forbid somebody had snuck a weapon into there and it went off, I mean, shit, there would have been bad stuff would have gone down. So I've seen some of the people talk about the ADA and sitting right in front of the crowd, and who boy, that is, yeah, it's a situation that they really need to rectify for sure.
Yeah. So I hope that the folks in charge of FanFest's future are taking notes, having meetings, and making sure that all next FanFests going forward handle all that better.
I feel like they could have cut out, in the front section when they got rid of the seats, they could have kept one to the side that is just for the ADA people. Like, make it over to the side, just have one section there, leave the other people near the door to their own devices. Because there's not really much you can do with the primals. Everyone is there to see the primals. There was people standing up all across the huge hall. But if they had cordoned off like one section, like I've seen other shows do, I think that would have perhaps fixed that issue. Or at least made it less dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also just needed more chairs in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was not nearly enough seating for the amount of people who wanted to be seated for most of the event, for like the keynote, even like the cosplay contest, the cosplay walk.
Yeah.
Which, shout outs to our buddy Stromgard, who was the Red Mage, and Melinda,
Arya.
who was, and Arya. Like, yeah, there was some really good stuff, but we'll get there once we get into the actual events.
Yeah.
But everything, there's clearly people like sitting here and there, like on the floor, in the back, and on the sides. Like, they just needed more seating, just in general, ADA or no, but they definitely needed more and better ADA. Like, they also had ADA in like the same line as, I believe, media, and there wasn't nearly enough people, again, to handle the people that were there. Like, they just straight up needed more staff. And I don't know if they could have gotten more staff. I don't know the situations. I just hope that, again, the FanFests going forward do better. And I think that's something that everyone just wants. Because we all want a good FanFest. We all want a great FanFest experience. And we all want to have great FanFests. We want them to deliver FanFests. We want Square Enix to have a FanFest that they can be proud of without reservation. So I hope they learn the lessons going forward so that can be true in the future. That said, I know that was a bunch of negatives, but we had a lot of fun at FanFest, and a lot of folks had a lot of fun at FanFest. But they got things they got to work on. So let's take a momentary musical interlude, and we'll come back with the actual things that happened event-wise at FanFest.
Welcome and well met, my brave little spark. How long you've wandered, burned bright as a star. Oh, I have awaited you patiently all this time. Past every fate, now sing with me once.
And we're back. So, Friday, we got there at 6 a.m. to line up and get pushed through the cattle corral as they shoved us all into the gigantic churn of never-ending people. We all finally got to sit our butts in seats, and then was the keynote, Dawntrail, which we have already covered in the previous podcast.
If you want to know our thoughts about that, go check it out.
All I remember was taking 5 minutes of just freaking out. Like, they could have showed me like just Graha eating tacos, and I would have freaked out for 5 minutes.
I feel like that's probably a general consensus. Yeah.
It was just a moment after moment of freaking out. I felt like I was in a dream at that moment, for real. Like, not just being like, oh, what do you say? Like, I don't feel like I'm exaggerating there. I just felt like, holy shit.
Yeah, so the primals is one of those feelings that defines FanFest. The other for me is watching that trailer that no one in that room has seen other than, Yoshi P probably. Like, being there with all of the other Warriors of Light, getting to see this for the first time, that energy is just something you cannot replicate, like, outside of that. It's always such, they could show the most stupid thing and we would all be going nuts.
Yeah, they could have cut a new Puma commercial with the really weird, like, Alice Aestinian and Meteor
I mean, they gave us Fall Guys
models.
and we were like, what?
I mean, Phil Spencer showed up on stage and just looked really awkward in front of the weebs. Like, he, it's... man, that keynote. I'm still mad that the new CEO didn't announce the new, like, limited job by showing up in an outfit. Even though I bet he wanted to, they just haven't finished the
he probably would have done it.
Yet.
Yeah, he probably would have done it if they let him. I honestly would not put it past him to come out in some outfit at Japan. Because that's the one Yoshi P always dressed up. He will be dressed up probably as the pirate, whatever melee class that the Warrior of Light is. That's probably the outfit he's going to be sporting in Japan.
That makes sense.
Also, that said, new CEO. I know you're still pro NFTs. Stop that. Bad new CEO. Bad. Anyways, keynote. Awesome. Dawntrail. On board. But if you really want our thoughts on that stuff, again, we did a whole podcast. It was almost 2 hours just on that. So go listen. We had a good time. After that was A Realm Revisited with Aya Danielle, as they kind of went through all the different things that had happened over, these 10 years and the memes that sort of organically bubbled up and all the people hanging from all the places in Revenant's Toll and Ildershire.
And Skybear. And watching that was fun because most of them, which one. What they did is they would play a game essentially where they would show two things from the game. And it's things you probably wouldn't even think about. And it's like, which one came first? And until you see them, you're like, wait, I could have sworn that come well before this. And then it didn't. Like, it's like when Fantasias were introduced, when PvP was introduced, things like that. And it was really fun to do that with them and you go back and remember when things were put into the game. Because at this point, you take for granted that they were always in the game. And especially for us, we always, Basil and I are the old ones. We've played for almost 10 years. And I was just talking earlier, I'm like, back in my day, Bard had a healer limit break. And so talking about things like that, you forget after a while that, oh yeah, it was like that. I used to have to level Pugilist to get Bard.
Oh, wow.
Like, it was, there are things that you forget that came way back when. And it was fun to relive all that.
Even with my newbie state, I'm like, back in my day, Summoners used to be a dot class.
Yep.
And Basil's like, you baby. They've had like 3 or 4 different changes from top down. I still don't know how to play it, but we do it anyway.
Why, Sonny, when I was your age. Man, but yeah, it was. They did a very good job presenting it. It was a fun.
Yeah.
It was a fun look back.
Did you guys actually go back and watch this on the stream?
Yes.
Okay.
There, at least as of this recording, there are still VODs both days that you could go back and watch all of it.
This being right after the keynote, we had all been sitting down for a couple hours. I think that was when the Mad Dash and the entire convention happened and all the lines started breaking down. So I unfortunately missed a lot of these panels just because of trying to see everything.
Well, and also that was when we were trying to find food.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find where the line even began for the food that was actually in FanFest, which was actually just one gigantic hall they had segmented up here and there. It was actually pretty open, more open than you realized going through the corral, where the battle challenge was actually behind the main stage, where the merch booth was as well. Not that you could get to the merch booth. that was just a lost cause. Most people had to get tickets for the second day, and even then, half those tickets weren't usable because they had already sold out. Merch was just not good this year. But yeah, the food line was impossible to decipher or even get into. So we were like, well, let's just get food at the Starbucks that's right outside. And even that line was forever. And I'm pretty positive by the time we would have gotten through that line, they probably would have been out of food, and all they had left was just drinks. So that would have also failed us. Shoot. And even just going through the hotel trying to get to our rooms to find any food at all also ended up being impossible. Tobias got a sandwich right as the place was closing.
That's right.
And I just sucked it up and bought vending machine cake.
Vending machine. They get the cake boss vending
for
machine.
lunch.
Yep.
Yeah, the cake boss vending machine. So I bought carrot cake and rainbow cake for myself and Anna, and that was our lunch, was cake.
Yeah, it was just a cluster. I don't know if I can say the F word here, but it's just a cluster. Let me put it that way, because when the keynote let out, everyone dispersed in a mad dash. I was just on one hand trying to keep up with you guys, but also I wanted to take pictures of cosplay. I was just kind of wowed by everything around me. So even the food wasn't necessarily on mind immediately, everything just went crazy all at once. So I wanted my initial plan, just like with the Primals Mosh Pit, my initial plan was to just sit down and watch all the panels that day as I talked to you guys, and that didn't happen because we were awake since 5 a.m. So everything just kind of fell apart really quickly. So I missed the panels, pretty much all the panels that day. We watched the cosplay walk later from the Pandemonium line, I want to say, because they had monitors up. But yeah, nothing went to plan at all that Friday.
Make the plan, execute the plan, throw the plan away.
Yeah. Now, we did see some of the second panel they did, or the third panel they did, which was beginning from the end, the annotated Endwalker with Naoki Yoshida and Natsuko Ishikawa. But we watched it on stream, and that's when we learned that our hotel Wi-Fi at the Westgate was terrible. It was constantly buffering. It was not handling stream, even just watching a YouTube video being streamed at all. But we tried listening to it and watching it anyways.
I did go back and watch it once we got home.
Yeah.
And it was very good. I love listening to her talk about, one of the big things that she was talking about was the meaning behind certain phrases, especially from Emmett Selk or from Heidelin. She would take these lines, and Kate was also on the panel as translator, but also she was able to give some background in what she had to do in learning what Ishikawa wanted, the meaning behind it, and then translating that into the English words.
I also liked how, for example, they had two characters in Endwalker who had diametrically different ideas about the same idea, and how that sort of reflected in how the storyline progressed and what they thought of this and what they thought of that, and how opposed they were, these thoughts, as you were playing through the game. Also, just how many times they were referencing the various Tales from the Shadows short stories, which they put on the lodestone every so often. There'll be a new little short story that will pop up that the story team writes. In fact, I think some from the first ARR and Heavensward and stuff got compiled into a book you can buy
right
now.
I believe it's through Shadowbringers.
Okay.
Maybe. After you go back and look.
But these are all on the website. You can read all of them there. And
not all.
Can you not read all of them?
Isn't the Xenos one not on the website?
Maybe it's not. I will trust you on that one.
I believe I remember that one maybe another one or two, but I thought I remembered that one specifically was reserved for the book that they put out. But I don't
Okay.
remember. I could be completely
Then
wrong.
the majority of them you can read on the website. And I believe all the ones that were referred to in the panel are on the website.
Yes.
But I'm just saying that if you're lore hounds and you haven't been reading them, you should go read them.
I should go.
Yes, Tobias, you should go read them.
I'm aware of the compilation, and I was going to wait till after Endwalker, but in reading people's thoughts of the finale, I've seen a lot of discussion about these, so for sure, definitely need to go ahead and buy it. Why not?
Yeah, it's good stuff. And then, I guess we actually went to do Pandemonium on Friday because that was when the cosplay walk happened.
Yeah,
It wasn't Pandemonium that we did. We were just walking around because we did Pandemonium the second day.
No, it was.
I think we may have went to look at them.
well, no, we
were watching.
Yeah, because we were watching the cosplay walk from the line.
Yeah, I guess we did. Wow, I thought we did. Okay, yeah, no, you're right.
Because we waited to the last possible minute.
You're right, because the guys in front of me kept getting distracted by the cosplay walk and not going forward. That's right.
Yeah, and
Because they were all very good.
There we
Yeah,
go.
the Glamour to Life was amazing. One of the very first person to walk out was a friend of mine, Melinda, and her husband and a friend of theirs. They were so good. I'm sad that they didn't show it on the stream, but they had a Janela with them, and they did a quick change haircut on Melinda's husband. And I've seen video of it since. I'm sad it wasn't on the stream, but they look so good. I knew she'd been working on her machinist for years, and it looked amazing. And there was so many incredible cosplays.
I really liked the person from Anna's Static who was dressed up in the Allagan gear as a summoner and was preaching the good word of Bahamut.
Yeah, so if you got a pamphlet for Bahamut, that was my friend, my dear Static Tank. And then we had our
That was
friend
also
Strom.
Yeah, our Storm Guard. Look, I'm not done talking about your stat member because
Okay.
that Allagan outfit that she picked out, if I don't know if you remember, that was what I had 4K wear through most of ARR up
Oh,
until
it
we got
was.
into Heaven's Ward. Yeah, that is one of my favorite outfits in the game. Like, period. Like, I'm really hoping that it gets some of the updates and the graphical updates to look even nicer, textures and whatnot, so I can bring it back out during Dawntrail. So, no, your friend has excellent taste in outfits.
What was this? Was from the Crystal Tower, Allagan gear?
No, this was from Coil.
It's from Coil.
Oh, okay.
Which you can get replica versions of it that's dyeable. That's not actually that hard to pull off. So if you're curious, we can make that happen for you. But yes, also Strom, one of our fellow Axe of the Blood God, folks. He was an excellent red mage. Excellent red mage.
I love it because his sword, there was a magnet in his glove that made the sword glow. It was so cool looking.
Yeah. I'm so mad that the TSA broke it.
Yeah, on the way home.
On his way back home. So hopefully he can get, because he spent a lot of work and effort making that sword. So hopefully he gets something out of it, because that was, no, being positive, he was awesome on the stage. It was an awesome outfit. He did really good.
Yeah, there was a lot of amazing cosplays. So many Grahas, Reens, and Gaias. But they were all so good.
Yes.
I think one of my favorites had to be, there was an Athena, and I'm like, how you got that made that quickly is
Right?
incredible. How any of them make these cosplays, to be honest, is incredible, because I couldn't do that. Mine are all very simple, and even the robes that I had sewn, a friend of mine sewed them for me.
Yeah, there was one Graha that had the that ethereal dice from Euphrosyne.
Yeah, the Ghostbuster backpack.
Yeah, and like having literally just done that this week and realizing this was what 6.3, 6.4.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, that would have taken a lot of time. But nevertheless, they had it.
And to cap off Friday was, of course, the piano concert performed by Keiko. She is just, goddamn, she's an amazing pianist. She is so good. She also is an arranger. I always tell people, like, look, I know she's really good. She is really good. She's also the arranger who does the night themes for most of the night themes that you hear since Stormblood. Like, she is part of the team. And I'm so glad that they've been able to bring her out to the American Fan Fests. She is so good.
And this was the first time she and Amanda had gotten to perform together, and they were so amazing.
Oh yeah. This concert might have actually been the high point of that FanFest weekend for me. Like, I love the primals, I love the orchestra, but the energy that Keiko and Amanda had together, where they really felt like they were like I really felt like, Amanda was like, "Hey Keiko, you ready to mess some stuff up?" And Keiko was like, "Hell yeah, I'm ready to mess some stuff up. Let's go." And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And then they were playing, they were so in sync with each other, and it almost felt like they were riffing on each other while they were playing. Like, it was so, the energy in there that they had together was so good.
Yeah.
And of course, you always get Soken's.
He's like, "You want to mess some stuff up?"
His little meme thing. He brought the automaton out again. It was wonderful.
In retrospect, I should have expected that, because when he started playing the Labyrinthos song, like, I'm not really a fan of that song. And considering she was going off bangers up to that point, it's like, why is she doing Labyrinthos? Oh, okay. Of course, it made a lot more sense.
I felt the same, because I was like, this is great, but it's a little lackluster. And so when he came out, I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, especially since they had just done In the Balance.
Yes.
And again, that was just such a high point. But then when she was doing Labyrinthos, she was all in the upper register of the piano, and she was being very meticulous, like how she was playing. Like, it felt like she was stunting on the Labyrinthos theme. Like, you're working way too hard for the Labyrinthos theme. It's supposed to be kind of goofy, weird, and out there. I mean, it would make more sense if Soken were to... okay, here he comes with the automaton. All right, this sounds like it's supposed to. Okay. Now it almost feels like, you composed this whole theme knowing you're going to play this on automaton later.
In retrospect, that makes a lot of sense.
Like, it really feels like I didn't feel the way about the Yansha theme. I do not feel the way about Lahi. I think those were just, Yansha just worked out. Lahi was just a mule moment that he probably wasn't really thinking too hard about it, but it worked. But Labyrinthos feels like he was like, what can I do for an automaton? I'm going to make a theme that's perfect for the automaton. That was Labyrinthos theme to a T. The piano concert was very good.
Yeah, to key off that, like, I not like I was going with low expectations, but I think my expectations were kind of pinned on the primals. So this was kind of I was gonna go, but I didn't really expect much out of it. But man, hearing Keiko in person, like, she's just a very intense performer. And if you just think of somebody playing a piano rendition of a song, that's one thing, but the way she gets into it is absolutely phenomenal. And like you mentioned, with her and Amanda going at it for the first time, apparently, in person, like, I held it together until Flow. And
oh no. The second Amanda says Sparks, we all just nope.
Yeah, like that already gets me, because they put out the video for both To the Edge and Flow for the new album, I think a week or two before FanFest. So like, I was already pumped. But as soon as that happened on stage, like, yep, that's it. There's the waterworks.
It was really good. He was really good. I think everyone's like, piano concert, it's nice. But I've always been like, nah, man, y'all don't understand. It's the piano concert. Y'all don't. It's Keiko. Y'all don't understand how it's Keiko. Like, she's the best. Apparently, I was actually checking out on Twitter. She apparently also works on arrangement for like Fire Emblem as well. Like, she's accomplished. Y'all be sleeping on Keiko. Stop sleeping on Keiko. She's awesome. I'm just done.
I wanna say Square Enix, they had a music channel they put out maybe on YouTube, I want to say 2 years ago or so, maybe a year and a half or so, and they do just various Square Enix property covers. But Keiko she did the And Poor Keep Hard theme for their channel, and that is, man, I was already a fan of that song, but that just kind of put me over the edge.
To the edge. Anyways, Saturday was a day where we decided to wake up a little bit later, and so we actually missed the first chunk of the corral. And man, just watching that feed into the actual main FanFest proper, I was thinking, yeah, maybe we should still be able to find seats for the live letter. But as people just kept coming and going, and it was like 20 minutes of just watching a never-ending sea of people, I'm like, there's no way we're going to get seats. And then I discovered at least half those people were trying to get into merch.
At least half, yeah.
That's
yeah, because most of those came right on back heading to go to merch. And we were able to actually get halfway decent seats for the live letter. So that was nice. It also helps there's only 3 of us. Like, that is the other trick is I've learned, especially with this FanFest now. Like, we've gone in groups bigger than 3, but I'm glad it was just the 3 of us because it made things much more easy to obtain seats together.
Yeah.
But yes, we had the latest letter from the producer live, which teased the new upcoming patch in early October, 6.5 Growing Light, where they actually gave us the whole general schedule up until mid-January, which was actually kind of nice to see. Where early October, we've got 6.5, which is the first chunk of the main scenario, along with the third Midst of the Realm 24-person raid. Then later on in late October, we'll get 6.51, which will include yet another new variant dungeon. So that'll be 3 already, which I was really impressed. I didn't realize how many of these variant dungeons we were actually going to be getting.
Yeah, I'm excited about them.
Yeah. Then we got 6.55, which will be the main scenario part 2, and it'll also include new side quests, which will probably like the latest Hildebrand and all that stuff. We learned about, the new dungeon, the lunar subterrane, and the new trial, and we're getting Thoradin as the new Unreal.
Yeah.
We now know the new Alliance raid is called Thalaia. I'm Greek. I should know how to pronounce these things.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't, because I'm a bad Greek. We got duty support for Stormblood. And that will finish off at this point with this patch. All main storyline required dungeons will all be duty support trustable.
You still got to do trials with other people, but
all but one.
Yeah, all but one. And you probably still do that with actual people.
Well, and also the original primal fights you do with trusts. The original 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, there's also 4. Well, they're only 4-person fights initially. Let's see. They announced the new variant, which is Alo Island. They, of course, are doing. We're getting a new arena, the Crystalline Conflict, was kind of cool to see. They're doing more sanctuary stuff, and that's when they also reiterated, "Hey, we're doing Fall Guys, Fall Guys, y'all."
I've started playing it, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm looking forward to doing you're getting the 14 costumes and things. And I was telling Basil before, it's very much like more frustrating Leap of Faith. And so I think it's going to go well when we get it in the gold saucer, and I think people are going to enjoy it. I had seen it before, but I knew in a sense what it was, but I had never played it. I didn't know it was free. I didn't know you could just. I didn't know what it was, and so I've been playing it on my Switch. I've been going back and forth between that and Theatrhythm, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm really looking forward to doing the crossover in that game plus in 14.
Yeah, I need to get back on that. It initially wasn't free. It was a paid-for game, and I think I got it on PlayStation 4 way back at the beginning of the pandemic, and kind of fell off of it. It was kind of fun to pick up and play a bit. But now that we have a reason to play it again, certainly need to do that.
All according to Keikaku.
Well, basically, you've talked a lot about the stuff, but you kind of missed the most important thing according to the level of cheers. Graha Tia eating tacos was certainly the thing that got the most cheers by decibel over the weekend. But the second
two
thing,
dies, but then
the two dies,
third thing.
That was they're increasing the restrictions on eye level going into the Crystal Tower race.
I find it funny.
Yeah.
The first alliance raid I did when I got back, I got Circus Tower.
Yeah, they're going to base it off of level, not just eye level.
Mm-hmm.
So theoretically, now we're taking your pants off. It will not help you. Now, the trick is though that if someone has never unlocked the other stuff and they've only ever unlocked Crystal Tower, because that's the only thing required for you to play through the game, is just the Crystal Tower raids. So there's still a half a decent chance that Crystal Tower stuff will still end up being most of them. But there are now chances you will see more stuff like the Evilise raids or the Near raids or the Mock raids. So that's exciting just for those of us who would like to see anything different.
I believe the issue is that people were just trying to do their daily roulettes and didn't really want to think, so they would take their pants off to guarantee a Crystal Tower raid. Whereas you have people like me that still need to do the near raids, and those are certainly things you need to keep at least a couple brain cells on to complete.
Yeah.
Hopefully that'll work out.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I'm hoping that this will do it. But there's other stuff, like there's new custom deliveries. Margaret, which is someone from Charlotte who is constantly overworked, and for some reason, and is a workaholic, and apparently it's someone that Naoki Yoshida feels a lot of kinship with. For some reason, I don't know why, but there was a lot of stuff they announced in the live letter, and I'm looking forward to it. Gonna be good stuff.
I just want to say, as my first actual live letter, like I've been aware of this, and I've caught little bits and pieces of live letters in the past few years, but as my first actual live letter that I get to pay attention to, it still just amazes me how they've got everything planned. This is all stuff that's coming out in October, and they were showing stuff from the various 0.0x patches, 6.55 and 6.58. It's the fact that they have all this stuff already pre-planned and done in the pipe, and can give us this, before a month out from release. It's just, wow, kind of amazes me that they continuously do this.
Yeah, for better or for worse, I feel more better. But they have really figured out the cadence for what to release, when to release it for Final Fantasy XIV. And so a lot of these live letters, you kind of already know what you're getting into until they announce it. But it's always fun to see what they're announcing, even if you have an idea of what they're going to be announcing, but you don't know what it actually is. Like, I know there's going to be a new dungeon. I didn't know what the new dungeon was, so I'm very excited it's the Lunar Subterrane. I know that there's going to be, for example, a reward for getting all the trial mounts in this expansion. I did not know that it was going to essentially be a modern 3D model of Bahamut from Final Fantasy IV, but damn if I don't want all the extreme mounts now.
I mean, they picked the one mount that was going to make you do it.
Like, yeah, no, they absolutely did. Like, this might be the first time I get the big all the extreme mounts like while on content, and I might be pushing for it to actually like try for these things. I'm gonna have to friggin' learn actual savage fights. Not savage fights, extreme fights. Whatever. They're hard.
It's okay, I'll teach
But
you.
that's right, and I appreciate it. But again, yeah, like, while you know what to expect, it's still fun to find out. You're getting presents for Christmas. But you don't know what those presents are, and it's really fun to unwrap them. And it should not have been, in hindsight, it's always 2020, on how packed the room was to watch the Crystalline Conflict Regional Championship 2023 North America.
It was fun to watch.
Primal has got, we know what we're good at. We know what our data center is all about. Turns out it's PvP.
And it's not taking
Hey,
portraits
Raiden.
properly.
The Primal team brought it home. Several of them were actually on Leviathan, which was exciting from since that's our particular server on the Primal data center. And it was some good PvP, and it was fun to watch. And Frosty did a great job of shout casting it. I think that's what they refer to that as, right?
Yes.
Like him and his buddy, whose name Brian Ricardo. They did a very, very good job explaining what's going on and how things were doing and keeping the crowd interested. And again, the crowd was that was a packed room for PvP, and I was not expecting it, but it was nice to see.
Hey, UGP even got in the floor to watch.
Yeah.
Well, I think Yoshi P really likes the concept of, especially now with Crystalline Conflict. I think they've really figured out how to make PvP work in Final Fantasy XIV. Like, I think that has been a nut they've been trying to crack since it introduced PvP, and they've done it. At least as far as the 4v4 goes, they have figured it out. It is fun. It is fun to play. It is fun to do. It's fun to participate in. Even if I'm not a big PvP guy, but I really like playing it. Frontline and Rival Wings still needs like some massaging, but they are on the right track, and that's good to see.
I mean, it really feels like this keys off more modern esports sort of stuff than the other PvP modes, which may be a little more traditional MMO PvP stuff, which if you're not really into watching big battlefields, it's not going to mean much to you. But Crystalline Conflict is simple. It's what, a 6-on-6 team, right? Something like that. 5-on-5.
That's right. 5-on-5, yeah.
It's pretty much capture the flag, right? Like you have a crystal, you hold the base, and it goes toward your zone. It's exactly what you would expect out of an esport, and it's easy enough to parse what's going on, even if you're not totally up with the specifics. It's kind of fun and engaging in a way that it seems like more traditional esports, more regular esports. Yeah, so I agree. This feels like if they want to make this a thing, whether or not it's actually going to compete with Blizzard games or whatnot, who knows? But it at least attracts people like us that are already going to these events and already interested in the 14 to pick them up.
And then after that came the real PvP, the real player versus player, finding seats. Because the vast majority of people, that's what they did. They found their seats and they stayed in their seats, and they are going to stay in their seats all day to make sure that they had seats for the primals.
But also, we really wanted to get good seats for the localization panel.
Well, we did because my original plan was I'm gonna sort of watch PvP, but I'm going to enjoy PvP because again, I enjoy Crystalline Conflict way more than I ever thought I would. I'm not a PvP guy, but Crystalline Conflict is surprisingly fun. But what I really wanted was after PvP, I figured people would clear out, and that's when I could grab seats for the lore panel, and then I would just stay for there because the person I really want to see talk is Kate Sinwar. She's amazing. She is the Sith, apprentice that Koji needed, and has now become the master. But man, no one was getting out of seats, and I'm like, oh no. people planned further ahead, and I almost got into it with somebody over seats. Wasn't planning to, but
You talked about PvP and almost had to hold you back.
yeah, like it was like because Anna was off doing.
I was going to try and find Garrett of Grinding Gear.
Yes,
because I wanted to meet him, and hopefully we can have him on the him and Kyle on the show at some point. But I also wanted to introduce a friend of ours to him. She was getting signatures for another friend of ours who could not make FanFest because of health issues. So we were trying to get him some signatures on a very beautiful drawing that she did of his characters. So just to sort of cheer him up. But yeah, so I was off in Rosset Hun trying to meet up with Garrett.
Right. So Tobias and I, more or less, we split apart, each taking different quadrants, trying to find seats.
Yeah, a lot of single seats, but it's really difficult to find anything worthwhile.
Yeah, that was like together. And eventually, there was a group of like 4 or 5 guys who all got up and left. And I'm like, aha, there it is. And then the guy immediately turns to me, who was right beside me, goes, hey, I've been watching this. I've been scoping this place out. I've been waiting. And I was like, yeah, man, me too. How many seats do you need? 4. I'm like, okay, man, chill out, man. It's cool. Like I'm sure we can find seats. It's not this big of a deal, dude. And next thing you know, on the other side, 2 people sit down who weren't there before. And he's like, oh man. And he gets up and he's still standing, but he storms off. Cursing up a storm. And I pause and go to them, hey, are y'all saving any of those seats? And they're like, no, we just want to sit down. And I'm like, cool. So, and I count. There were, in fact, 4 seats available, like from where they were sitting. So I'm like, cool. I summoned up my vocal cords, and I had to yell across the way to get Tobias's attention because I couldn't move.
And I actually heard it, which tells you how loud it was.
Yeah. Like I haven't had to use my StationCon Hamacon voice in a while, but I used it then, and so we got our seats. And we got to and then Anna came by, we got to experience the lore panel, which was called Speaking the Language of Creation. And it also had Kate and Koji Fox for some reason.
And Matt, whose mic broke.
Yes, and they didn't realize that until it was already over, and that's why he was quiet. But man, that was a good panel.
It was. I'm glad I got to sit in on one of these, actual discussion panels.
Like Koji's panel was always such a highlight of a FanFest for us, and I knew Kate's was going to be great. I didn't know what to expect, but she is such the master. It's great. I love seeing her give Koji shit for her having to take all the problems he created. And I didn't realize that. I should have thought about it, but I didn't realize she was the one that wrote the newest lore book coming out. Because I always associate the lore book with Koji, because the first FanFest we went to was when they were introducing the first lore book. And during his localization panel, he was like, please go buy the lore book. And we're like, it's sold out. And he was like, wait, what? He's like, you guys sold it out? We're like, yeah, it's sold out. We can't buy it anymore. And he was floored.
I remember that first FanFest, that Monday, we were on our laptops trying to pre-order the lore book because they had put up pre-orders at the very last second to try to get a second printing going. So Kate did a very, very good job. She did a very good job of explaining like how the work of localizing stuff happens and the trials and tribulations.
And we got to name and give lore to a new fish that eats Lalafels.
That too, but we still hadn't talked about, was it the pancake dragon?
Oh no, the cabbage dragon.
The cabbage dragon, right? Cabbage dragon. Also, the fact that apparently only Koji knows how to talk in dragon and how to voice act in dragon, even though he was still working on primarily 16 at the time. they still had to call him over, be like, okay, we have people having to voice at dragons. We need you to record how they should sound like. And so he would record him talking as dragon so they could emulate it when they were talking as dragon. But also, like, here's the region of Garlemald and Ethavnir and these areas and Charlian, and these are the roots, and how this naming convention works, and how this naming convention works, and how this group is sort of Greek sounding and Latin or / Latin sounding, and how this group over here is Greek / Latin sounding, but in a different way.
Right.
It was really, really interesting, and they could have gone for like another hour or two, and I would have been listening. Like it was so good.
I really liked they talked about with Thavnir specifically how they wanted to both like give it an Indian feel without getting a little too. I don't know how to put this, to get a little too like they're taking from it too much of a colonial feel. I feel like with being with like the localization being more Western, of course, and of course the game being a Japanese product, they didn't want to feel like they were just taking too much of the culture. They wanted to be respectful. They're being respectful. That's what I want to say. And she made a point to say that for Dawntrail, being respectful is something that is very much on their minds, with this being very much like a South America, New World feel. And I was really glad to hear that.
Yes. Because that's something that people have been worried about when they announced it initially, the New World, because it's not always been the most respectful.
Yeah.
They have not always had the best. So to hear that, no, they understand that and they are trying, and that the goal is to be respectful, as best they can, it was nice to hear. And I'm glad that they're acknowledging that. Well, we have arrived at technically the end of FanFest, which is the Primals concert. So really, I just want to hear, Tobias, how is it like watching the Primals?
It was great. They played all the songs I thought I was hoping for. I'm really glad that they ended with a long fall and brought out the community team to do the meme dance from the digital FanFest. I like the entire time, like all the lyrics. Of course, I've been singing the songs for the past 3 years in my head in my apartment to Cosmo, my cat. But like the moment the promo concert happened, the lyrics just had left my mind. So I forgot every song they ever made.
I'll tell you, I think the one song that I cried and sang my heart out to was Close the Distance. I knew I was going to cry at Close the Distance at the orchestra concert. I did not. I sobbed at the Primals concert.
Yeah, they did that. They did Focus and Brew Justice mode, which is great. I'm really glad. I didn't think they would go that far back. I was a little afraid they wouldn't go that far back, but the fact that they did, stuff from Alexander.
The second that Koji asked Soken what he had, I went, oh, he's got the trumpet. Oh, he's brought the trumpet.
And like
brought his dad's trumpet.
And like Rise isn't my favorite song, but the fact they did the time stop thing in the middle was really awesome. And to be part of that was
it's
really
funny
because
cool. The people that know that very well knew to stop moving, and then the people that didn't, they're like, wait, what?
It was great.
Them trying to make Dancing by Moonlight, that was an interesting way of handling it, because it was really good when it was Amanda singing it during the piano concert, but then it was Soken and Gunn doing it for the Primals, and that could use some workshopping. It was not. It was still fun to listen to, but it was not the same. But when Koji did Scream.
Oh my gosh, Koji doing Scream was amazing.
Like he pulled out the full oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the Primal's name. It's the Fiend song.
Is that right?
Yeah. It was Koji going his full Power Man 5000 voice.
Right.
Oh
right.
yeah.
But for Scream, and that worked way more, better, great, amazing than I thought it would. Like, I was like, oh my
laughing 'cause
gosh.
I was watching Kyle and Garrett's FanFest video, and they just started Endwalker, so they come to this and they were very careful about not getting spoiled. I don't know how well they did. I know they got a little bit, but I was watching their video. I know he was like, "Scream! I don't know where it is in this game, but I have to get there." And I was like, that song, even to us, that was current at the time when it came out. That's the reaction we had was, "This is the coolest song."
Yeah.
And like I said, to hear Koji sing it was kind of like hearing, Theme of King JJ on organ. It shouldn't work that well, but it does.
Yeah. It also really felt kind of nostalgic. I remember back in the day when it was just, it was just Koji and Soken and the Primals doing all of the songs, where their stunt casting for one of the songs was that, Kiyoshida came out to do the Byakuya theme,
Right.
which was amazing. But, I'm used to them, like, the fact that they got, like, Amanda Aiken and Jason, Charles Miller to actually come out and sing the songs with the band was perfect. But there is something about that core group doing their songs. And so when I realized it was Koji doing Scream and not Amanda, I was like, oh, wow, this feels nostalgic and right in a way I was not expecting to feel. I was not expecting to have nostalgia for the Primals, but I did.
Talk about going back to the classics. They did Under the Weight as well, which I was not expecting.
Yeah.
It's not a Primals concert without that one. Oh, that one is always so much fun.
If memory serves, I remember reading back in the day, the Primal fight was the first time that Soken really got to do something different musically, where he got to really just do whatever he wanted to.
Right.
Before, he had to make sure to keep it very, quote, Final Fantasy-ish.
Mm-hmm.
But Titan was the one time where he was looking for guidance, and apparently Yoshida's like, I don't really have guidance for this. You can do whatever you want, really. I don't care. And so he did. And that was, I think, the beginning of him really getting to make the Primal songs something all unique and interesting. And then when he started the actual Primals band, really, really stepping up to that, I think, spoilers for 16, the Primal, or the Titan fight, has a very interesting song as well. So I do feel that, like, Titan, the Titan song, I think, has special meaning to Soken as much as anything else.
That makes
and so I think it's very appropriate for if they had to pick one ARR song to really showcase the Primals, it should be Titan. Even though I might like Leviathan more, but it should be Titan.
It does make me feel bad that Ifrit still has the more generic sounding song.
Well, if you've not done them yet, well, I think you probably have. If you've not gone through the Eden raids, definitely.
Oh, right.
Where they do one which, where the theme is actually the Gruta theme and the Ifrit theme, like, together, and that's a really interesting take on them both. So even Ifrit's theme does get a glow up, just not where you probably expected to get a glow up. So yeah, that was FanFest. There was also the Orosian Symphony, which was very good. We're running out of time to talk, but it was very good, and I just want to put that out. And we exchanged lots of stickers, and it was great seeing everyone there, and everyone's Elpis flowers, and it was very nice.
Yeah, and I got to scare Ishikawa.
I did. I feel so bad. She was walking by, and I said hi. But yeah, the concert was amazing. I think my favorite part of it was getting to watch and listen to the choir they had. Because I know, all those songs had words, and I know that. But it was a different to listen to a live choir sing them. And being, a choir person myself, I was watching their mouths and like just trying to figure out what they were saying. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And I even got to sort of sneak Basil into the VIP section with me.
Right.
Not really
Yes,
sneak,
because
I
I was
asked.
having panic attacks.
No, I agree. Hearing like the ultimate theme with the full choir was really amazing.
Yes.
The part that really got me, surprisingly, the ARR stuff. Like hearing both the Serenity from the Shroud and the Ulda Day theme, like those are orchestral songs. And sure, it was nice to hear some of the later themes in orchestral setting. To hear the actual orchestra songs, the nostalgic stuff in person live, that I think struck me more so than almost anything else in that. Hearing that in the Heavensward theme, oh man, that got me.
Yeah. Oh, hearing Amanda sing Dragon Song was amazing. She did a great job with it. I had never
Yes.
thought about her singing it, and I really enjoyed her interpretation of it.
Also, I'm really glad she discovers that, oh wait, people like her.
Yeah, that was I guess one of the bad things with the pandemic is, even the last FanFest, she didn't perform with Keiko or anyone. It was all done through video. Like they edited it together. So this was her first time not only performing with the 14 musicians, but also getting to perform for us. And she knew we liked her because we all follow her social media and we've interacted with her there. But getting to experience the reception that she got, I think really gave her a lot of confidence. And I know she's actually like, okay, I'm going to stream playing this game. Like, would you guys want to watch that? And we're like, yes.
Of course.
Because we're all vampires and we all love watching new people go through the story and experience the pain that we've felt. Because Ishikawa lives off of our tears.
Well, I know, for example, Jason Charles Miller, this is not his first fandom rodeo. Like, for example, he also was provided the vocals for Rules of Nature for Metal Gear, Solid Rising Revengeance. Like he's been doing music for a minute. He does like, I remember seeing him as a guest star in the Dungeon Run, which is like a live play D&D group. Like he does nerd
did
stuff.
One with Travis McElroy.
Yeah, like he is. This ain't his first rodeo. I'm sure he really appreciates all the 14 fans that he gets. But again, I think last year Anna was complaining how we weren't at Dragon Con because he was at Dragon Con and he was playing songs and stuff. But I don't know what else Amanda's done that isn't like more like stuff in California. And so I think, the reactions of everyone loving her stuff doing 14 stuff, I think. So she knew it, but she didn't really know it until it happened. And I'm glad she knows that she's pretty darn universally loved. She's an amazing musician, and you be that wonderful soprano that you are.
Yeah, something that's mentioned a lot in our community, but something about the music of Final Fantasy XIV is special in and of itself. And not to say, the music of Metal Gear Rising Revengeance wasn't important or impactful, but I think there's something a little more special about our game and our community. So it's cool to see these people, like you say, I've surely met fans before, but a different level of fans here.
And we have our toxic ones. Like we are not a perfect fandom. We're not a perfect community, as we've even seen post FanFest. But the good far outweighs the bad, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was cool to see Amanda. Like she really was hamming it up all weekend with like the hand heart. She was into it. We were into it. Kind of on that note, in the closing ceremonies, just seeing Ishikawa kind of like, continue to cry.
I know, and Yoshi P like, please stop making our most adorable member cry. And we're like, but we love her, and we want her to know we love her.
Yeah, but also when they started cheering Yoshida, she was like, yes, cheer him on. Make him feel like I feel. Yes,
and
yes.
Same thing with Soken. And he knows. He's like, all right, get it out. All right, and we're done.
Or trying to... Sorry, Ishikawa directing traffic as people are trying to exit out. of the symphony was
yeah, the
very
symphony. She's like,
adorable.
go home, and we're like, we can't. It's blocked. So she'd like lean over the balcony and go, oh, okay. So then she'd wave at us again.
Anyways, you were saying, Tobias.
Just, I think that's part of what is kind of special here is, on the one hand, I do worry that we're maybe lionizing and idolizing some of these people in a maybe a little more than we should, but it's hard not to key into that. When we see Ishikawa sort of responsible for this hugely impactful story over the last 2 expansions, it's hard not to just cheer for her. And we hear, Keiko and Amanda do Flow, like it's so impactful to us as fans in ways that I've been playing games for over 30 years now. I mean, we all have. Like, I don't think the music of a game and even the development staff for games has really impacted me in the same way for anything else beyond what Final Fantasy XIV has done. So part of the magic here is that even though I didn't get a golden ticket, even though we scared Ishikawa, we got to see Ishikawa on the day one. I'm pretty sure when we were waiting in line for Starbucks, Foxclan walked by me, and I just didn't really want to stop him and like annoy him, be that guy. Like, even though we didn't have the direct experiences, it was still something just kind of magical about that weekend and seeing these people and seeing them as real people and not as people you see on the internet. During the Digital FanFest, the big Soken cancer speech and seeing Yoshi cry on stage, that was something that I've watched several times just because of how it's very touching to me. So to see stuff like Amanda kind of ham it up and really like feed off the energy, to see Ishikawa speak in English, to us. I'm choking up literally just reading this to myself now. Like, on the one hand, it's like maybe I shouldn't get too close to these people, this parasocial relationship. On the other hand, it's like, man, it's just a special community, a special place, and I'm really happy to be a part of.
And we're happy you out there listening have been a part of listening to this podcast. Because this podcast is now, well, not like over forever, but this episode's done. That was FanFest. And because we need to wrap things up to make sure that time codes are good. So, this has been a production of the Carbuncle Chronicle, part of the Awesome Cast family. The editing is done by, Anna. The wonderful Anna, who is also on this episode. I don't like I keep talking. Anyways, the theme song is done by DJ Inubito, at least for the Awesome Cast proper theme song, but the rendition that you're listening to on this episode was arranged by Anna. Our website is Carbuncle Chronicle website is carbunclechronicle.com, but really just redirects to the awesomecast.com because we are the Awesome Cast, just the Final Fantasy XIV version of it, which is at awesomecastosmcst.com, where you can go to and links to all sorts of things, like, for example, our YouTube channels. We now have YouTube channels, thanks to Anna, for the Awesome Cast and Carbuncle Chronicle. So, if you want to listen to us in a whole new, different way, it is there for you. Or if that's the way you listen to it, great, awesome. Thank you so much. We'd really thank you if you also subscribe to our Patreon for the Awesome Cast, which keeps the lights on and keeps everything going. We also do have a Discord for the Awesome Cast, which does include a Final Fantasy XIV thread. Just check us out there. Also, leave us Apple Podcast reviews or Spotify reviews. But that's how people can find us, is through Apple Podcast reviews or Spotify reviews. Social media stuff, you can find all my stuff at It's Basil Time. The Awesome Cast is always at Awesome Cast. Carbuncle Chronicle, social media wise, is at CarbyCast. Anna is Angel Darkfire, but the middle A is missing. And you can find Tobias on the Discord.
I am. And you know what? I actually logged into Twitch today and streamed Final Fantasy XVI for 2 hours. So who knows?
Okay.
More streams may be happening in the future. And if apparently the 14 community is hopping on Blue Sky, I might be on Jack's Twitter. We'll have to see.
Yeah. So, and then finally, Twitch. I also do Twitch and it's Basil Time. So I think that is it for us. Thank you all for listening. I guess as a final thought, we had fun at FanFest.
Yes.
I would like to go back next year, a year after, whenever they do it again. No promises, but I would love to go back.
It's, by and large, it's a good time. And with that, never, ever forget, you tanked a bone dragon up north.